Go.
Okay, now again, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Monday Morning Motivation.
Hi.
Today it's Maria and me in person, and our crazy little cat Sprinkles in the background. And we're so excited to have emotions coach May with us. I always want to say Mai because it's German and it means May. So please excuse. And we've just realized that we've never used a swear word in our flyer before. It's the first time. But yeah, sometimes you got to use a specific word to make clear what this is about.
And I'm sure May is going to talk to us about how important is that in emotions, because I'm sure that there's a connection in there somewhere. And we're all very excited to hear about this.
I mean, we all learned about using the right language in our neuro-linguistic programming trainings, right,
Hi, Chris?
Good morning, Chris. Hi to Australia. Okay, we're excited. Let's get it started. If you're not in the WeChat group yet, scan the QR code here. Maria will add you. We have 5 WeChat groups with nearly 2,500 people all over China and even a bit abroad by now.
Yes. A lot of people.
We know Chinese New Year is coming up.
There you go.
So if you still need a present for Chinese New Year, even if you're not able to visit your family or just to send it or send an ebook all around the world, we have these great, this great book with
It is very good.
reflection, gratitude journaling, daily motivation.
And quotes, lots of quotes.
We have lots of big companies using it. For example, HSBC has like 30 people in the HR department using this book nowadays.
The Australian Chamber of Commerce uses it every Monday, apparently.
Yes,
which is very funny. And so, yeah, if you guys want it, there's the QR code over there and you know how to get it. Or ask me or Janine.
Yes. And last but not least, this is like Maria and I were working on a lot of great new things, which is going to happen after Chinese New Year.
Yeah.
And I can only promise you there's going to be one evening session coming up, a regular thing, so different from what we do in the morning.
Yeah.
So you definitely want to join in the evening and morning. But this is going to be for free. It's going to stay the way it is. It's just going to get better and better.
Absolutely.
But if you still love what we're doing, please feel free to scan the QR code on the left side, donate something to us. We give 50% to the 1 Million Tree Project, where we regularly basically donate so they can plant trees in Inner Mongolia, because as you know, our environment really needs more of our support.
Absolutely. And that's it.
Yes.
And that's our spiel. Let me stop sharing. And
thank you so much for 100 RMB of donation again to David, who's
thank
always
you,
supporting
David.
us.
Thank you, David. We would like to publicly acknowledge you.
You're amazing.
And
hey, Johnny, all the way from Belgium. It's late at night.
Exactly. Good night, Johnny. It should be like 1 a.m. over there, if my times in Italy remind me, or maybe midnight. Depends what the time looks like. Yes. All right. So
midnight indeed.
Okay, there you go. Thank you, Jenny, for coming. And May, stage is yours. We're so
hi. It's so nice to see some people that are friends, or some people that I know, and other people that I don't know. And I'm so happy to be here. This is really funny. When Janine asked me if I'd like to do a Monday morning motivation, I was so tickled. It was such an honor to be asked to do this, and of course I said yes. And then she said, "Well, what do you think that you want to do it on?" And these Monday morning motivations are very thought out and well planned and ahead in advance. So this was a little bit of time ago, and then at the time, I had just gone through my own emotional beep storm. and having gone through it, I said, this is totally what I need to do. So if you're, usually when people start talking about things that they need to do in order to combat the thing that they're trying to curb, they usually save that information to the very, very end. And I'm just going to tell you from the very, very beginning, because if you take anything away from this, this is all you really, really need to know. And all you really need to know is when you're in the middle of something that is overwhelming to handle, stop. And that's it. Stop. And then as soon as you can, wherever you are, and you can do it on the subway. If you just close your eyes and you just stop, and then you go inside. And you go inside, and right now I'm actually kind of nervous. And a lot of times when people are experiencing things on the outside, it doesn't really seem like anything's really going on the inside. And I don't really want to say it's a disservice that we do to ourselves or that we're lying to ourselves. It's a totally coping mechanism, because if people could really see exactly what was going on inside of us all the time, then, well, we might get ostracized, or some sort of elimination might happen in the group. It's for very good reason, but to go inside and to name those things. So when I was in the midst of an emotional beep storm, I was actually lying in bed. And I don't know if this has ever happened to any of you, when you're having a panic attack or you're having an anxiety attack and you're under the covers, and it's still, you know, it's a brand new day. Nothing has happened yet. There's no catastrophe yet, except anxiety is like a drop of ink in a glass of water, in a glass of clear water. And then when that ink falls, it's just, you can see it just slowly permeating everywhere in that glass of water. It's like your body. And it's incredible what it does. And then just one little thought or just one little sensation, and especially when it has to do with lack. If you think that you're not going to have enough or you're not going to be enough, that just like trickles through. And so in those moments, it's just go in and name all the parts of whatever's going on inside. So it might be, I feel heat in the back of my neck. I feel my heart racing. I feel my stomach clenching. I feel tightness in my thighs. And like, just name them. And if you can stay with the sensation of not leaving it, of just staying with it. Because what sensation I've discovered, what sensation is, a nice way to consider it is to imagine that each feeling is like a child. And so children have all these different aspects, and we're all these different aspects within our one self. We often think when we look in the mirror, we're just this one personality. I'm just Mai. But Mai is a construct of all these different parts. And some parts are very vivacious and some parts are very introspective. And I have very childlike parts, and those childlike parts have a whole range of emotion and color. But with different emotion, and especially, well, with all of them really, even the very exuberant ones, like they hold a lot of, they could hold a lot of weight and trauma, actually, and the truth of it. But if you can just stay with the sensation of, and then treat it as if it is a child, a child that's in need, because that's all children are. Most cases of just like being in need. And instead of pushing that child, or in this case, and really this emotion away, can you invite it in and just sit with it? You're not it. Like, well, often when we are feeling anxious, we'll say, I'm anxious, but you're not anxious. You're just feeling that sensation. And that sensation is actually a body sensation. And when we try to push it away, this body sensation gets stuck inside our bodies and results in trauma, especially when we don't release it. So the releasing part is super important as well. So first, the feeling of it, just allow whatever is happening in your body, just allow it to happen. And to not be for it, not be against it, of just being with it as if you're like a patient parent, and just observe it. then you will notice that it will just naturally change, because that's just what things do. Nothing ever is static, and emotions is just energy in motion, as they say. So just allow it to go through, and when it changes to something else, it will eventually change to manageable and okay. But it's still, this energy is often still in the body. If you notice in the wild, when you see an animal, a wild animal that's being hunted by a predator, say, and like say a deer is being chased by a lion, and then if if it outruns the lion, if it gets to a part, it will it will get to a safe place, and then it will shake. And this shaking is a very natural way in which to release the energy of that trauma that's inside. And what happens with people, especially in this day and age, is that we think that we're above being an animal and the needs that an animal has. So to expel this energy of whatever is going on inside, and it will change if you're feeling anxious versus feeling angry. Whatever it is, just allow, like, listen to your body and give it what it needs, always, always, whatever it needs, whether it's a certain kind of food, whatever it's like a certain kind of company, like whether you really want to go out with a lot of people or just like one, or just by yourself, just listen to your body. But the moving of the energy out is essential, because if it gets stuck in the body, it just exacerbates that trauma. So then when the next time a sensation like this happens, like an anxious moment or an angry moment, it will almost stack on top of it and become worse. So some things that I like to do to move the energy is either listening to whatever music that my body calls out for. Sometimes I listen to some very heavy, like sometimes metal, sometimes whatever needs like something like really bassy driving force. Sometimes I ride on a mobike really, really hard, listening to this. A lot of times I like to listen to like soundtracks like Hans Zimmer and whatever needs to like, I'll dance it out or I'll walk it out really quickly. I'm not a big runner, but and yoga is amazing for just moving that energy out. It's also really important to just understand why this is happening too. And this kind of comes into self-knowledge, because a lot of times people are operating on sort of a reaction, whereas, and the reactions are actually, when I pay attention to reaction, it's like we're not reacting out of a vacuum. Like there's always a reason why we react in a certain way, and it usually points to our values. It's just that not everyone is aware of what their values are. I can go into, I'll be doing a course later about helping to find that out in a really sort of natural and fun way. But it is like when we can dig into what is it that makes, like, why did that make me angry? So for example, when I first came to China, I'm from Canada, and in Canada, like people say sorry almost as much as the British do. And for no good reason. If you just like graze against somebody else, like if you just touch somebody else, that you always say sorry for some reason, I don't know. And so when I first came to China 14 years ago, I was on a bus and somebody stepped on my foot and didn't say anything. And then in the beginning, it was like, did you just step on my foot? And then the guy would say, so? And then I'd say, well, don't you want to say anything? And then he said, are you expecting me to say sorry to you? Because if I had to say sorry to everyone whose foot I stepped on, I'd be very tired. And then I thought, oh, is that how it works here? And I just didn't want to live in a life that was like that. And so it's very important when situations happen that you reflect on it and reflect on how you showed up and how the other person showed up, because really how we show up often informs, if not always, informs how the other person shows up as well. So in the stepping on the foot thing kept happening to me. And each time I try something different, depending on the reaction that I got. The next time someone stepped on my foot, it was on a subway. And then I didn't call him out like I did the first one. I just gently went to him and touched him on the shoulder and whispered in his ear. And I said, "You just stepped on my foot." And then he said, "Oh, sorry." And then it was like, there was this humiliation almost that happened to him. And I thought, well, I don't want that to happen. Because like having a foot stepped on, to me, if I dug into that, what does that mean? It meant that if no one acknowledged that they accidentally hurt me, and I always knew that it wasn't on purpose, but if the hurt wasn't acknowledged, then what could anybody do to me? And this is a really big thing, and so I just wanted to be seen and to be acknowledged that I have feelings and that I'm enough to be respected, to have my space and my body respected, and that was it. And so then the last time anyone stepped on my foot that I noticed, because I don't notice it anymore, I was on a bus that was. I was on a bus, and I was waiting at the exit, and I just had my toenails painted, and each of the nails looked like an individual earth, and I really liked them. And then coming from the front of the bus, walking towards the back, was this like gigantic man. And he was like lumbering back and forth. And then all I kept thinking were, oh my God, he's going to step on my foot. And this is going to really hurt. And so he was he was about 5 feet away. And I stuck my hand out and I said, "Mister, I'm just a little bit concerned that you might accidentally step on my toes." And then he looked at me, and then he looked at my toes, and he said, "Actually, blue's kind of fetching." And then, so when that happened, it was, I just felt totally seen. And both of us were just delighted. So it's important to know why. The things that you're going through, the emotions that you have, they're for a reason, and nothing is for naught. And it's so important to explore all the reasons why you might be experiencing things, because they point to your values and they point to your beliefs. And yeah, and if there's really anything else because I know that we're kind of running out of time for this portion, that if you can give yourself anything, like anything, like the anything could be like, I feel like, so I'm from Toronto, and my family is like from the Cantonese region in China. And there are times like when I would be sad, that I would have a craving to have Cantonese food. And that's the only thing that I could eat, is like food that my mother would make. Give yourself that. This is like nourishment for your soul. I am so blessed to have 2 really big dogs. And when there are times that I feel sad, and I have trained my dogs to be both therapy dogs for other people that are especially scared of dogs. And also when I need someone to cry on, I'll just cry into Baby's back. Baby's like she looks like a big black wolf from the Game of Thrones. But it's important to to just know what you're needing. And if you're needing help, support, or anything, like people, there's so many people that want to help you, either with through friends or through coaches, through people like find people like Maria and Janine, or people like me. There's all kinds, but mostly the most important person that ever needs to ever hold your pain and to ever hear everything that you have to say is you. So if anything, everything that I will ever say is just learn how to be there for yourself. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, May. That was awesome. It was really, really good.
Aw.
We do appreciate the vulnerability and the depth of what you were going through.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. I think what we experienced this morning was definitely the first time, probably within more than 1.5 years, that someone shared in this kind of way. Yeah.
Really?
Thank you so much.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, every one of our speakers is unique and great. So showing vulnerability is something that I think in our society is not seen too much, because most of the times we don't want to be seen as weak, we may think. But thank you so much for your sharings. Who has a question for May now?
I assume that there's going to be a few things that people might want to ask you, May, and I see that maybe Sebastian is already ready.
Shall I start again?
Only if you like.
Firstly, May,好多謝你. You understand that, right?
No,
I'm actually hailing from. I live in Melbourne, Australia. I was born in Hong Kong many moons ago. I'm sure probably before you were even thought of. There's three of you. I'm not further down the journey of life than you guys are. Anyhow, thank you for sharing. Just a couple of things that come to mind. I think one of the phrases you use is to stay with the sensations. I think these are the words you say.
That's right.
One of the first thought that came to me is, hey, when I'm angry, should I really keep on being angry? When you say stay with sensation, I think, and you use the analogy of treating it like a child in need.
Yeah.
Perhaps could you just explore that a bit further, and maybe also comment on the positive and the negative of this technique, for want of a better term?
Okay, thanks so much for asking that question. It's beautiful. Imagine that you're with a child, and I don't know if you really imagine a child, like you'll notice that the child will start in and say, "I'm really angry about this thing," and then when you are just
that too many years ago. No, because both my boys are young adults now, so a few years back when they were like that.
If you just see kids on the street, you'll notice that like they're really, really angry about this thing. But what happens is that when you just listen to them and you say, "Tell me why are you angry, darling?" It softens. Then it starts changing into, it's amazing. Anger will eventually change into sadness, because that is the root of what anger is.
Yeah.
Anger and sadness are the flip sides of a single coin.
Okay.
You know, because it's like, and take, for example, like when someone stepped on my foot, and then and my first reaction was anger. But then at the root of it, it was like, I was so worried that no one would consider me, that they could just do anything to my body. And how unsafe that made me feel. Right? Understanding that your anger is for a reason. And I love anger. Is like one of my very favorite emotions, because there's so much strength in it.
Yeah, but it could be quite destructive as well, though, May.
If it's unchecked, if you don't dig into it and like try to understand it, and I would be so delighted to help you understand some of your anger and to release some of its power, because sometimes like when things aren't looked at, they just grow and grow and grow and grow into this like monster. They can turn into
Yeah.
a monster, but it's just
Yeah,
a
yeah.
monster inside your mind. It's not really. I used to be really scared of like other people's shadows, like Jungian shadows,
Oh,
but
okay.
I'm not anymore. They're just like big babies. They
Yeah.
just need love. And then once
Yeah.
you just give them love, they end up turning into this like righteous power that's inside
Okay.
you, and it, like
Yeah.
a real strength where you can channel it into love and all kinds of amazing things.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Well, thanks, May.
Did that help? Oh, it's my pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sebastian, for that question. I think that was a really good one. And I do appreciate May mentioning that sometimes anger just moves into sadness, because I think I never realized
Yeah.
that was the process, but that very often tracks. So that's super
Yeah.
interesting.
Which is a good one. I actually experienced that sometimes when I cry, it's like a mixture out of being angry and suddenly you're sad at the same time, but you're crying because you're actually angry and not really sad in specific moments. So there's this really interesting correlation. So it's good that we spoke about it.
May I just comment on the bit about crying? Have I got a 30 seconds or so? I grew up in an era in Hong Kong where I spent my first 19 years, where the idea is that men do not cry. Oh,
Yeah.
how cute. In fact, there's a saying in Chinese, the translation is, a man would rather bleed to death than cry. I think May, you would know that 男人流血不流淚. You understand that, yeah? And I have since learned that that is not a healthy principle to live by, because men, we might not be as emotional as you guys are. Like you guys, I mean you ladies, but we do have emotions, and I believe at the appropriate time, crying needs to happen, and it has a number of benefits. One of the first one would be to release the negative energy, like, for example, you have a tragedy, whatever it is, and rather than bottling it up like what I was taught to do, and all the male in my era were taught to do, because it's a bit like, imagine you keep stuffing something into a jar, eventually the thing will blow up literally into your face, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
right.
it just, when Janine mentioned crying, I just thought I'd drop that in, especially for the male listeners. It's okay to cry, man.
Yeah, man.
Even in public, as long as it's a safe environment, in the sense that you know that the other people won't laugh at you or tease you or what's the word, undervalue you, right? In a safe place, like for example this here, I'll cry, man, if it's called for, so to speak, to first help me and maybe to help others. Say, hey, man, it's okay to cry. It's not a sign of weakness, I don't believe. In fact, it's quite the contrary. It takes guts to cry, man, in public.
That's right. Sebastian, I'm so happy that you said that, because it's such a farce what people have tried to teach us about feelings, and that feelings are like weak. Because whenever you've tried to express yourself vulnerably, or when you cry, that takes a lot of courage to do.
Oh,
it's
for
the
sure.
greatest amount of courage.
Especially in front of strangers, right? Like, I mean, I only come to know you today. I only meet you today. I met the other two girls a couple times now. Well, actually, Janine, I met more than a year ago in Los Angeles. So that's how I got connected to this group. But anyhow, no, I just thought I'd mention that, as I said, especially for the male listeners, it is a healthy thing, or it can be a healthy thing, to release your emotion, your tension by a good cry.
Yeah. But some people, Sebastian, some people don't know how to do that.
Well, yeah, that I can understand that. As I said, I grew up with the view that you are a weak person if you were to cry, And as I said, I told you this, that almost like a proverb, you don't
Mhm.
rather breathe to death as the man than to cry, which is just sheer stupidity. Right?
Yeah, well, that's a whole new thing that we have to learn for sure.
Yeah, that's right.
I wanted to connect what Sebastian just said about, being vulnerable and being with people that you can be vulnerable with. Because there's a couple of questions in the chat, May. I don't know if you see the chat.
Yeah, I'm
But
looking at it right now.
there's a person saying, Chelsea, saying that sometimes to deal with emotions, they choose silence, and then their friends are not like okay with that, like that's not acceptable to their friends. And I think that that's a good thing to discuss. So like, how do you know, what is the importance of the people you surround yourself with when you're dealing with emotions? I think that
I
that's
feel like
something I'm sure you have thoughts on.
I feel like that silence, and Chelsea, thank you for asking that question. I feel like your silence is not something that you want to do. There are three sort of reactions that animals have, and I keep reminding people that people are animals. Is that we have flight, or we have fight, flight, and freeze. And so a lot of times when you're in a situation that's overwhelming, people either like fight it, like just like do the thing, like when I first had my foot stepped on, and then the flight is like when something's too overwhelming, we just run away. And then the freeze is like, I don't know if this happens to you guys. This absolutely has happened to me. Of people are talking and people are talking right at me, and I don't hear anything that they're saying. Or you're just like, it's just this complete overwhelm. And so I really feel like the silence is the same thing too. It's a form of freeze. It's like the words almost get bottled up at your neck, and there's just nothing that's coming out. So just take some time. In that case, just take some time and and you can always, like, friends are so great like that. Is that if you talk to them right in that moment, or if you talk to them a little bit later, it's okay, they're still your friends. But it's good if you go write down some stuff, like go home and write down like what was going on. That might help. And then just for you to be clear, and once you're clear with it, then you can talk to them about it.
Thank you, May. And Clark was saying in the chat that silence can leave people guessing and feeling awkward. Maybe saying that you're upset and need a moment will let people know where you are and where you are with your emotions. I think
Yes.
that's a good suggestion.
Yeah. Can I just add something to that?
Please,
Maria?
please do.
Thank you. Sometimes people don't even, they can't identify that they're upset. There's just there's just this overwhelm that happens to them, and even being able to say I'm upset, like just naming it will tame whatever emotion that you're feeling. So it's whenever I see people, and this is like a real testament to loving your friend, is or anybody, is a practice that I do, especially if I come across someone that I'm not crazy about, then I will ask the question, where is he or she in me? Like whatever I have perceived to be really annoying or really irritating or something, where is that person inside of me? Because I know that person exists, and it's probably rubbing up against some part of me that I'm not crazy about. Yeah.
A great perspective. That's so true. There's a couple of things more in the chat. So Johnny says, I agree that most aggression comes out of pain and that showing love will diffuse most of it. The key is to get through it. Not getting through may make it hard to diffuse the anger. He's asking May if you have any suggestion what to do if, even feeling love and offering love, the other person doesn't get it. Like how to proceed, either in case that you're in defense or being attacked, or in desire to reach the person dear to you, but the other person is not getting it.
Okay. Hi, Johnny. I would, it's really important that you're clear with your intention, and that you're clear with yourself of like, this is what I'm doing this because I love myself and I love this other person. And whenever I have been in a relationship, people have a natural way of trying to heal a relationship if there's been rupture. And so one person will need to flee. I need to get the hell out of here. So they'll leave the room and they'll slam the door. And then the other person will pursue. And then I need to go after that person. But you know, that the other person needs to have some time. And so it's best, I find, that when you're not in conflict, to sit and talk about what happens when we're fighting. What happens inside you? What is it that you need? Because that is that's real compassion. If you can understand what the person needs, and then what's going on in you, like, you know, when you leave and you're not here, it scares me, because I feel like I've done something and that I can't go back. Like I've ruptured the relationship and now I can't mend it. To explain in a time when you're not at a peak, to say exactly what's going on inside of you too, and for both of you to kind of come together and say, okay, this is what happens to me. Would you be willing to just wait for 20 minutes to give me a sign or something when it's okay for me to reconvene again or something? So sort of agreements and understanding how both of you both receive what you need. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. And I find it always an interesting balance between compassion and self-love, because those two are always in balance. So it's a valuable answer. Yes. Thank you.
So nice to see you. My pleasure.
Thank you, Johnny, for that. And I think there's a couple of other questions, and one in the chat that says, how often is healthy? And I'm guessing that relates to the crying part, but Mai, who has that question, do please feel free to clarify that. I think that question came in when we were talking about crying. So we can take that, you know, how often crying is healthy.
As often as you need to. That's what I say. There was a time when I went through depression and I didn't think that it would ever happen to me. But when I did, I realized how much I needed to grieve. And mostly the grieving had to do with the childhood that I thought that I should have had, that I didn't, or the parents that I thought that I should have had, but I didn't. And yeah, so that grieving process lasted for 1.5 years, and I was working full time and with children, and they really helped me so much of just like being with them and their mirth. But I cried every single day, at least 3 times. That's when I stopped wearing eye makeup, because I didn't trust myself going up. And I still don't, because I never know. And I never ever want to stop tears, because for me, it's just like, it's like a flow of energy. Like I listen to a lot of people's stories and I just breathe their stories in, and they just kind of wash through me. And there's lots of times that I cry listening to other people's stories, because there are a lot of beautifully tragic stories in the world, and some horrifically tragic stories in the world.
Yeah. Ladies, have you got, again, 30 seconds for me to make a comment about depression and mental sickness?
Yes,
okay.
We do have a couple of minutes, and then we'll wrap it up. Go on.
Okay, now I just like to point out that for us who's at least, say, 25 or 30 years old, we would all experience life not as a straight line, because it's never a straight line. It's always up and down, right? So I would even venture to say that probably most, if not all of us, will be at least mentally sick at least once in our life. The only difference is how deep or how shallow, and how long or how short. I believe it's actually quite a relief to accept that, quote unquote. Let's say it's not a matter of if, it's when. It will happen to us, probably, as I said, most, if not all of us, because life has this habit of dealing us sometimes with some very extremely difficult hands to deal with, right? So I believe it's more important to prepare ourselves by, for example, coming to mastermind group like this, where we can share experiences. You may pass on your knowledge and skills to learn to be resilient, to learn to bounce back, to learn to deal with change, because all those things are important in life, regardless of what profession you're in. So that's all I like to say, folks.
Oh, thanks,
Thank,
Sebastian.
thank you, Sebastian. That was really good. And I do
Yeah, sure.
agree that groups like this and Monday Morning Motivation, as Janine mentioned at the beginning, we do have different kind of speakers and we do appreciate all the perspectives. But the group
Yeah,
itself was also born to offer support, whether nor me or Janine are like mental health professionals, and we don't claim to be and we don't want to be, but we're very
no,
happy to offer a platform for people who need support. And if anybody
yeah,
needs
yeah,
mental health support, we can direct them to professionals who can help. And at the
yeah,
same time, I think that the vulnerability and like the ability to have a group where you can, if you want, share things and have people that you meet that can become long-time friends, or like people that
yeah,
you do trust.
yeah. Well, I
So it's more
certainly look forward to
important.
the day then when that happens,
Mhm.
for me and with me. But it to do that, we all have to put in effort and time to build friendship,
True.
because friendship doesn't happen overnight, as you all agree. But um,
Absolutely.
and also about seeing professionals. I reckon in some cases, especially in the beginning of their depression, for want of a better term, simply having the opportunity to talk to people you can trust,
Yep.
people will keep your confidence. Sometimes that's all you need, is just to talk it out, so to speak. You don't even have to go to see a professional and get whatever drug that they prescribe for you, because the reality is
Don't
that,
take
and
drugs.
I might be biased living in Chinese, but most Western medicine treat the symptoms and not the cause.
That's right.
And many of them
It's a good point.
have possible side effects. I I can't recall the how many stories I've heard of people taking a psychiatric drug and whereas might help them to with their mood, but then they suffer in another way. So
Yeah.
just something to think
True.
about. I'm not saying that don't ever take drugs if you
No,
need
no,
that and
absolutely.
feel,
That's a good
but
point. And do
just
refer to professionals, but be aware
yeah, be
of it.
mindful of your
Sure.
options. Taking drug
Absolutely.
is not the only option.
True. Very true.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. No worries. Thank you, Sebastian. And since we're running out of time, I do want to just wrap it up. I know that there's a question from Clark in the chat that says, for those who are feeling lonely and isolated with their emotion, what is it recommended? I think we can take that maybe in a couple of minutes and then close it up. So it says, what is recommended to those who are feeling lonely and isolated with their emotion? They don't usually have someone to share their experience with, so they are giving a rare opportunity. And so the sadness pours out overwhelmingly.
Yeah.
May, I don't know if this is not a 2-minute answer, but let's give it a try.
Clark, I would be happy to talk to you.
There you go.
I would be
Thank you for the brevity. I do appreciate it.
delighted.
Okay, and as usual, May is on in the WeChat group. So if you guys want to, feel free to reach out. She'll be sending her contact details, or she'll be reaching out in the WeChat groups today. Thank you, May, for this. This was fantastic. I'll give you a couple of 10 minutes break before the 8 a.m. one, so
Okay,
we
thanks.
can do that all again. Thank you, everybody, for joining. As you see in the slides, we just wanted to share again a couple of opportunities that are very, very good for you guys to experience learning more about yourself, and maybe learning also how to deal with the emotions from another perspective, which is the NLP perspective, from neuro-linguistic programming. Monday Morning Motivation is working with Motivate Shanghai. We're very happy to support them. Both me and Janine are taking courses with them. And there's a couple of things going on. There's a free NLP thing on, I don't remember what is it, on Wednesday, I think. And there's the business one this morning. So if you guys are on Zoom and do want to join, please do. Otherwise, thank you so much, May, for this. This was fantastic, and look forward to the 8 a.m. one. Thank you for making the time. Thank you, Sebastian, for, as always, for the very good questions and the
Oh
interaction.
no, it's my pleasure. Thank you,
everybody else. Thank you, everybody else, for joining this morning. We do hope that this was useful for you and that you took something out of it. Have a fantastic Monday. Have a fantastic week. We'll see you again if you want at 8 a.m. or next week. We'll always be here. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, May, and thanks, Maria. May 唔該晒，拜拜。
多謝晒啊。
唔使客氣，拜拜，拜拜。
Bye. Bye. Bye.
拜拜。